Good morning. It is Sunday. What is it? April 19th, day 592 of the quarantine. I've decided to grow a beard now. Had I decided to do this at the beginning of this outset, I would look like Moses with a beard down on my belly. But I didn't because I have a 7-month-old who would be yanking on that thing and hurting. But we've got Dan Alatorre here to talk with us about his books, his crafting, and what he does. So how are you doing today, Dan?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to finally be able to link up with you. You're another local Tampa Bay author, so it's fun to be able to meet up with more folks in the local area here.
Yeah, I was surprised when you started doing these. I realized how many, like I knew Nathan Van Coops,
Yeah.
and I had interviewed him a while ago. I used to have a internet show, but you find out there's some local talent, a lot of them around the Tampa area. I didn't know, and so I started watching interviews.
Yeah, there's a romance author by the name of Jillian Dodd who also lives in Tampa Bay. She's one of the top 10 romance authors on Amazon. She lives here. Diane Capri, she lives down here. Well, she's a snowbirder, so she comes down
Yeah,
here for the winter. So we get to meet up and see her. But yeah, there's quite a handful of us around the local area.
it's the place to be. I mean, look at your yard. It's paradise. It's
I know.
beautiful.
It's beautiful. I got tropical jungle out here in Florida. It's just, how can you beat that? So
And,
tell
and
us.
and the beaches are open now too, so we can go do that.
I know, finally, my kids have been begging to go to the beach. So we like going over to Honeymoon Key. It's over in
Oh yeah.
the Dunedin area. It's just a gorgeous
Well,
beach.
that's a quiet one. They should have let you go to that one regardless, because I think you can only get that by boat, right?
No, well, there's one spot only by boat, but it's a state-controlled one. So you use your little card, you can get in there for free and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not bad. So, what did you do before you got into writing? Because you weren't always a born writer, if I'm not mistaken. What was your previous background?
So I was a manager at two different Fortune 500 companies, not at the same time. I went to President's Circle as kind of like an office manager, sales manager. I went to President's Circle with two different Fortune 500 companies. And so I did that. So it's kind of number crunching, managing people, managing salespeople usually, which is why with this, for those people who don't know or don't have kids, our kids are kind of like during the virus thing, they're all being what they call distance learning. So I got a fourth
Yeah.
grader. So
Yep.
there's a couple of Zoom calls a day with teachers, and the rest of it they're doing on computer, which means every 5 minutes she's asking me, "Hey, Dad, how do you do this? Or is this right? Or can you help me with it?" So I set up, Mr. Dan's School for Wayward Children, and we got a bell off a boat. We ring the bell every day at 8 a.m. We're in my office. She's here. So this is my computer. This is my desk. This is my bookcase. Her desk is on the other side, and we have one of her friends, and they come in 8 o'clock. We start. And I oversee everything. So I'm getting nothing done except for schoolwork. And I'll be honest with you, man, when 3 o'clock, we're all kind of counting it down. It's like 3, 2, 1, 3 o'clock. We all run out. We jump on the trampoline. We swim. We play. And so I got the two of them, and they're great kids, but you have a great appreciation for what teachers are going through, but a greater appreciation for, like, I just got one kid and her friend, they're both in fourth grade. So I have a friend who's got like a fourth grader, a third grader, and a first grader. So they're all doing different, they're learning different things. They're on Zoom calls at different times. That and three different curricula. It's like, whoa, and there's just one of her. There's me and my wife can help with my one kid. So
Yeah, we're going through the same thing. We've got my daughter in first grade. My son's he's in a VPK through a Montessori school, and so he's not having to do the Zoom call stuff. But we're teaching them both and keeping them going with their stuff. And my wife, she co-writes with me on all our books. And so I write the book, but she's the editor. Okay, she's the one who takes the garbage I put up together and call a manuscript. It makes it look nice and pretty and flows and work. Well, she's not really working on that when she's teaching our 7-year-old and our 4-year-old. So it's been
there's
quite
only
the
so much
challenge.
energy.
I know. She tuckers out. It's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. She wants to go to bed. And it's like, no,
Yeah,
babe, you got to stay awake. You got to get like at least 10 pages edited today.
it's crazy. I'll be conking out like 8 o'clock. And part of it is I kind of saw what was going to happen here. So when they said it's going to be a week and then maybe a couple weeks, I'm like, this is my chance. This is an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for me to really teach my daughter good study habits, good learning habits. We do a math equation, add it back to see if if you're subtracting fractions, add them back. If they add up, you got the answer wrong. Little things that we do as adults, maybe we're trying to be thorough, that the kid's just happy to get through it and put an answer up and be done with it. Oh, it's wrong. Well, at least I'm done with it. So what I was going to say was, so I used to manage salespeople. So it was great training for working with kids, because that's what salespeople are. They're very much kids. There's a bunch of them. They all got different attitudes, and they're all cranky at different times. Maybe you need a snack. It's works so with my daughter. It's like, maybe we need to have a snack.
Yeah, or you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a nap. We'll do quiet time with the kids. We'll put on some quiet music. We'll just have them, sit there. And, my son will clock out for an hour, and I'm totally cool with that.
This is pretty easy for the rest. The 10-year-olds, there's no napping anymore.
Nah, they're done with that age. They wait till they turn teenagers and become adults.
Right, I think it comes back as teenagers.
You and I are like, oh man, a nap? Really? You let me take a nap? Oh my God.
I never napped ever. I'm one of those guys who never doesn't know how to sleep. But once we had a baby, oh man, I was the nap king.
Yeah.
My neighbor was like, when the baby naps, you nap. And I was like,
that's right.
Advice.
That's so
hey, so I like how you cleaned up your background here, because for those people who you can watch the earlier videos, there's a great one. So you were doing a FaceTime thing, Facebook Live, I think. And whatever, I had something going on that day, an author club or something. I couldn't watch it live, but I told my friends, hey, this guy's going to be on, watch him. Yep. And so I'm doing my thing. My messenger is going ping, ping, ping. I'm like, I got to be doing my thing. I can't be doing this. And you were on, right? You're like, yeah. you gotta look at the video. You gotta look at it. It's hilarious. I'm like, I can't. I'm doing my thing. I'm gonna watch it later because it records. Watch it later. And they're like, no, he's got like a diaper pail in the background. I'm like, dude just had surgery. He's got like a 3-month-old baby. You get a total pass for having the diaper pail. But then, they fat shamed you a little bit there. So now you're outside where there's no diaper pail. So
I know.
Thank me for that, because I brought that to your attention. I'm like, I love the diaper pail. I didn't see anything wrong with it, honestly.
No, life is real, man.
Pictures from a few years ago, we got diaper pails, we got changing stations. Anybody who's got a kid knows that kind of thing.
I have to. Yeah, you gotta. That stuff stinks, man. You gotta have a diaper.
That's what it is. That is the life. And people who see that, who've had kids, they get it. They understand.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Well, I think the big thing with it, in growing your audience as an author, I think one of the critical things you got to do is really kind of humanize yourself to the reader and show the readers that you are literally just like them. You got little kids that you're dealing with. I got my son opening the door to interrupt us right now.
But that's part of it. That's what makes it. Yeah, I agree 100%. So when I would do a video thing, if my kids run in the room, it's like, where do you think I am? I'm at home, same as you. They see daddy's on the computer. It's like, oh, they want to peek. Who else is he talking? Do I have
exactly? But that's life. That's life. That's just how it is. And it's even more comical because, like, when we're during this quarantine period, everyone just like totally expects it. Because what else are you gonna do?
If you got the dog part, my daughter will do a Zoom call with a math teacher, and inevitably, the math teacher gets these are all live, the math teacher gets a package delivered inevitably when the Zoom call is going on, and she got a little dog, the dog would just start barking. It's kind of like, we just kind of all laugh because it's the dog. What are you gonna do? If you're at your house, you're on a phone call, if it's not a business call, you're talking to your dad and the door rings and the dog barks, you don't care. You don't think anything about it. I don't know why we pretend we have to have these, hermetically sealed environments where there's no sound, there's no this, that, no imperfections. That's not life. This is life. We're rolling with the punches here. We're making it up.
You're real people.
I made a joke about pajama day. People like pajamas. We haven't worn regular clothes in like 6 weeks. I'm like, good point. People are all day in their pajamas.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because my dad used to do a lot of video conferencing calls for work back like in the early 2000s when this was really like new cutting edge technology. And it was so comical because he would be dressed in a suit tie with his sport jacket on, and he'd be in his pajama bottoms. But all you saw was his upper body for the call and things like that when he was working remote from home. And then when he was done, he'd take all that off and, be back in a t-shirt and he'd just be back working. And he's one of those workaholic guys. He'd work 12 hours a day from home, like no problems. But it was just hilarious.
That's right. It's funny. And that's still the case. There was a show where they kind of said that, and they were like, all you're hearing is from here up, so I'm gonna fix my hair, and I'm wearing no pants. Who would know? I'm barefoot, whatever.
It's so funny
No
how
pants, I had shorts on, but.
So what type of books do you write? What type of genre are you mostly in? What do you like to write, and what are you working on next?
I like everything. I started out writing stuff that interested me, and whatever I, authors, you get neat ideas like, oh, that'd be neat. I was watching this show about the Unabomber, and I thought, when that was going on, there were certain people who were scared to death to go to their mailbox. And it was a TV show about them, right? So it was all from the FBI agent's point of view. I go out to my mailbox, and I don't know about you, when I grew up, our mailbox was up against our house. It was a little shaped like an envelope.
Sure.
You
Sure.
lean out the front door and get the mail. This is up in Ohio. Down here where I live, it's a little more rural. I'm on the north end of Tampa and Lutz. And so my mailbox is not only on the street, but ours, because there's not very many houses on my side of the street, my mailbox is across the street, right? It's right next to my neighbors. So a lot of people will just look at the number on the mailbox and go to the wrong house with a package, or they'll knock on there, we're here to clean your windows or whatever, and they're at the wrong house. They're calling, you're not answering the door. I'm like, you're across the street, come across the street. And the driveway's right across. So I thought, this is something I want to put in a story. It's like, what if I was a guy trying to kill somebody, Unabomber style, puts it in the mailbox and blows up the wrong guy because the mailboxes are right next to each other. He's trying to kill the mayor, and he kills the mayor's neighbor because wrong mailbox, right? So I'm gonna work that into the story. But so the stuff neat little things. I always thought, like the movies where you had a normal person in extraordinary circumstances who had to really be out of their element and really push themselves. I always thought those were more interesting and would relate more to a typical reader. I never cared too much for I like, like Batman and Superman, that stuff. It was like, they're too invincible. We just never believe Batman's not going to come through or Superman's not going to come through. And that's why I like Game of Thrones. I'm like, you start rooting for this guy, and all of a sudden they chop off his head. It's like, whoops, I guess he's not going to be the hero at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, like when they did
I wrote
that
different
first
genres.
Yeah.
I wrote a time travel adventure. I wrote a romantic comedy that was really hilarious, but also very sexy. And apparently you can't be both. You need to be sexy or funny, not both. And I'm like, you can be both. Well, you can't, because that book doesn't sell a lot. But so there's my lesson there. It's like, that's how I know. That's how I know they were right. The people who said you can't do that. I'm like, well, so it's out there. And I wrote some other stuff. And then about a year ago, I decided to try more commercial fiction. So I wrote a murder mystery, pretty conventional murder mystery, but it's a lot of the scenes are from the point of view of the killer, where as he stabs his victims and he cuts them up and he takes souvenirs and stuff, but he's so into it, he's just slashing away. So it's not a slasher book, but in those chapters, you're in his point of view pretty much, and you're feeling what he's feeling, the joy he gets out of the kill, the excitement. And then when he's thinking about it later, fantasizing about how much he enjoyed that kill. And I got that from interviews with killers who are like, we can't not do it. It's like an itch you got to scratch or a sneeze. You have to do it.
Well, it's an addiction. It's an addiction. It's a psychological addiction. I've seen interesting studies where, all right, so when your person is doing heroin or meth or cocaine, it starts to rewire their brain to where their brain receptors only derive joy or pleasure or excitement from that. That exact same thing happens, believe it or not, to men and women when they watch a large amount of porn. It does the exact same thing. And then it causes them to not have the same physiological reactions that they should with a real woman or a real man, and be able to have, the normal intimacy relationships. And killers are the same way, where they've got that same thing that's rewired in their brain, and now the only way they can satisfy the itch is to do that. And that's why you hear about serial killers, these guys who go on these sprees, and some of them, it just is like one murder or maybe two murders a year, but it's been stretched out over 20 or 30 years. And it builds like this big excitement that they have. It's really interesting how the brain works, the chemistry and the neurological aspects of the brain work on whether it's narcotics or sex or murder. It all is the same exact thing in the brain.
So I did a lot of research on that book, and the challenge was it was for part of a box set. So there was a deadline. I don't remember what it was, and I'd never written a murder book. And So my friend was like, no, you can do it. It's like, it's got this, this, this. These are the building blocks of it. So I read some like classic, well received, not so much classic, but very well received murder mysteries. And I watched a lot of, because when I'm working out, it's like you got the TV there, put on a murder mystery and let's see how the plot unfolds, like Shutter Island, Leonardo DiCaprio, and some other ones, some of the old ones with Bogart, which they're good for them, but it's noir, it's a different style. And I thought, okay, well, one that really hooked me was Zodiac. With so there's a couple of, there's like 2 or 3 plot lines. There's the cops plot line, and obviously the killer doing his thing, and then the journalist. And I guess it's mostly the journalist story. He's kind of the underdog, and I really like the different interactions in there, and the, like I said, a lot of good acting in it. But it was like, when I started reading the internet, it was like, that was like the top of everybody's top 10 list. It was one of the top ones. I'm like, okay. So when I watched it, I thought, why do I like this character? Why do I dislike this character? And I just said, all right, how quick can I get involved? And when I was a kid, they had these like Sunday night murder mysteries, Columbo, McCloud, those guys, right? And maybe it was reruns when I was a kid, I don't know. But it was just Sunday night, and they would start out, you'd see like the gloved hand with the gun, and it would come up on the woman and kill her, or the man and kill her. And it's like, you saw the killing first, right? So I thought, I'm gonna start out, my opening line is gonna be like, the killer did this. And it's like, so right away, the reader's like, oh, it's only a killer if he kills somebody. We're starting out right away, he's about to do it. And it was just, he was getting ready to kill this person. And so I wanted to make sure there was a lot of tension, a lot of suspense, even though we all know he's only a killer if he kills someone. So we're going to see a murder here shortly. And then after that, you have the cops show up and doing their thing. So that was a lot of fun. So I wrote that in like 8 weeks, and it was like my best-selling book ever, right? And so I immediately get asked by some friends, hey, we're doing another set. Would you medical thriller? And I'm like, no, I really want to write a sequel to this. I got some other stuff going on. And again, my one friend comes to me and she goes, well, it's kind of like this. Here's the marks you got to hit. If you take your murder mystery, maybe it's a doctor-oriented, a hospital. And I was like, God dang it, I didn't. And now the deadline is like really short. I'm like, and she goes, well, you wrote the last one in like 8 weeks. How hard can it be? I was like, okay. So sure enough, I wrote that, and that was the Gamma sequence. So I kicked around ideas with her for about 24 hours, and she writes medical thrillers.
Yep.
And she reads medical thrillers. She's a big fan of the genre. So I figured, well, there's your audience. If she'll sign off on the plot, then I can write it knowing it'll satisfy a fan of the genre.
Yeah.
So that was with Judith Lucci and a bunch of other people. And so I wrote that thing again in about 8 weeks, like 80,000 words, 85,000 words in about 8 weeks. And when I was into it, I was like, okay, so here's the things I have to have, the medical, like the backdrop. But I like to write about the character interactions and a little bit about relationships, and you start to like a character and what's going to happen there. And I think it was, I forget what author said it. He goes, if you have a male main character, it was Dan Brown. He goes, as soon as you put a female character in it, now there's tension already because everybody's wondering if they're going to get together. I was like, that's awesome. I did that with not even knowing that's because I figured they might get together, but it was better for that genre if they didn't. But there was always that element.
A really interesting series where you have your murder series and your medical series kind of like put together, where the doctor is secretly the killer. And he does these surgeries, and every now and then he has one where he knows the likelihood of this person dying is pretty high as it is. So he does something that he knows is going to kill him anyways. Or sets a time bomb, so to speak, where the person's going to die shortly after the surgery to cover up his tracks. And people start noticing that, there's a lot of people dying under this guy's watch. What's going on? And they're not dying in the surgery, but they're dying post-op. And it's like this mystery of trying to figure out what is going on. I don't know. That'd be kind of an interesting series.
Well, Coma was like that, right? But there was actually a nurse in Great Britain, a male nurse, who was a serial killer, and he injected something into the saline bags, I think. Something that would kill a diabetic kind of thing. and
Oh,
he put it all in the sailing bags and then let the bags go wherever they went. And so like random people were dropping dead. And then when he eventually moved to a different hospital, I don't remember if it happened there too or not. And the police were like, "We know it's him. We just can't figure out how he's doing it, so we can't, we can't charge him." It was really, that's one of those little like a
wow.
60-minute real story kind of thing. And I'm
Is it
like, I love that idea. He was a killer, a serial killer, but who would have ever expected the nurse in there doing it? And they couldn't charge him. That was a frustrating thing about that. Like they couldn't charge him because they couldn't prove it was him. They didn't nail him down. I guess eventually they did. They sent him away. But so I was like, that's one of those based on real life events. I was thinking that might be a good one. See, it's so interesting. You're yawning. That's how interesting that story is. Well, there's one for them. Throw
Dude,
that right
I'm
here.
so effing tired. It's just not even funny, man. I'm
You gotta
just
do yourself any favors by doing this out on the line. What is it? 80 degrees, 85?
something like that. But you know what? It's so damn loud inside the house. The three kids. I mean, this is my only peace and quiet. Literally, let me show your readers here, okay? That's where I write my books for
Right
now.
there on the lanai?
Right there on the lanai. It's 90 degrees outside. I got 2 fans and a lot of water. Because,
I would probably sweat too much for that.
well, of course I sweat too much. But if I go inside, I gotta listen. My baby's constantly. She's crying. She's teething. Okay,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
about it. She's teething. She's in pain. She's just not comfortable. So she's fussy. And then my 4-year-old doesn't like her crying.
Nobody does.
No,
Well,
yeah.
and with the older kids, they can sleep till reasonable hour. With the baby, there's no hour where you can say, "Oh, I'll just get up
My
at
kids
4."
are on this like clock,
Yeah,
man. By 6 o'clock, they're awake. They're up. Sometimes even slightly earlier. So we put these little alarms that we bought, and it shows a red light until 6 a.m. and then it turns white. And when that turns white, then they know they're allowed to leave the room. They come into our room and we look and we see that it's before 6 o'clock. We say, "Is your light red or white?" And they'll say it's red. We're like, "Then go back to bed. Come back in here until it's white."
you ever cheat? Like buy yourself an extra half hour and make the red dot not go at the right time?
What I need to do is
Hey,
read
Dad, that's a guilty face
change
right
their
there. You know
alarm.
he's doing that. He's doing that tonight.
I need to change their clock
I'm like,
back.
Dad, the sun's up. The sun's like overhead. It's still a red light. Don't come out of that room.
I know. It's gonna be crazy. So that works out really well. But yeah, it's kind of like training a dog, I guess. I mean, it works. I mean,
I
whatever.
think people who only have dogs and don't have kids can go with that analogy. People who have kids are kind of like, what do you mean? It's like a dog. No, yeah.
Well, this dog, at a certain time of the day, the kid's gonna show up and they're gonna stand right next to your bed, and they're just gonna stare at you. They're gonna stare at your face until you wake up and you go, "Holy crap! Who is staring in my face?" And then you're like,
I know friends whose kids do that. My kid comes up and just starts shaking me. Dad, can I get up now? I'm like one eye looking at the cable box that's got the little digital display. I'm like, is that a 3? Is it 3:15? Get the hell back to bed. What are you talking about? But she's 10. I can do that. When she was like 1, it was like, yeah, let's get up. You'll do whatever you're gonna do, and you'll fall asleep, and then I'll fall asleep. We can go downstairs because my wife had to be on like conference calls at 8 a.m.
"Oh yeah."
Back then I was doing wine sales or something. So that business doesn't really start till like noon, but it goes late. So yeah, let's go. We'll go downstairs. We'll do whatever, and then she'd fall asleep on the couch, and then I'd fall asleep. We'd watch reruns of Scrubs on TBS.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were doing every night. They'd have 3 or 4. We'd watch that, and she'd fall asleep in 10 minutes, but I'd be up for an hour, and then I'd fall asleep.
Of course, it's interesting. You got drawn into the story.
No, I just couldn't fall back to sleep. You wake me up, I'm up for a while. And that's when I did a lot of my writing. So when she was a baby, she'd wake up at 3 in the morning. I'd get her a bottle, whatever. And she had reflux. So you had to feed her slow, keep her upright for like 30 minutes or whatever. I don't even remember, right? And then like a rocking chair, then she'd fall asleep. Then I'd put her back to bed, but I'd be up because if I have to do that much stuff, be awake to do that much stuff, I'm up. And so then I would sit down and I would write.
Yeah.
And when I'm writing a book, I usually get up at 4 a.m. because that's before school. I mean, I make her breakfast, I take her to school and everything. Like, I think that's kind of your routine, right? You take the kids to school and you come home and do some writing.
Because the kids would get up between 5:45 and 6 a.m.
You gotta push that back. That's still red light time.
I know. We get them up, get them dressed, and then at 7 o'clock, I take my son and my daughter over to school, drop my daughter off, and then I take him over to this Montessori school and drop him off around 7:30. Then I come home, it's shower, get dressed from 8 to about 9, or get caught up on emails, whatever else I got to do. And then from 10 o'clock forward, it's work. Well, work till 2 o'clock when I got to pick up my daughter. And that's just was the routine, man. That's the routine.
Well, mine's just the opposite. So I get up at 4. She's not going to get up till almost 7 to go to school. So there's like 3 hours, and I don't touch email or anything. Come down and write. This is when I'm working on a book, which is a lot of the time, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm running Mr. Dan School. There's none of that crap happening. I'm sleeping as late as I can.
Yeah.
But when I'm working on a book, and part of it is because people are like, oh, I don't have time to write. I'm like, well, I see on the golf course, I don't have time to play golf because I gotta write my story. But I wake up at 4 a.m., come down. I don't even like to turn on too many lights, like one light, not too bright. I don't want to bother anybody else. I can't have any music, so wake up my daughter because her
headphones
right on top of me.
Headphones.
I don't do that because I
Fancy.
don't need the music, and I don't listen to it anyway when I'm writing. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. So I bang out however many thousand words, and then it's like, okay, 6:45 is about time to start getting her up, getting her dressed, making breakfast, run her to school. Then I can come back, work for however many more hours, work out. Then I take a shower. I don't even take a shower or any of that stuff because I need to get the writing done. I know that's my protected time. Once she's at school, take a shower. If somebody wants to interrupt, if there's something I'm needed for, or email, great. But I protect my writing time. So
I'm kind of a workaholic like that too. I get my writing. I try to get about 4 or 5 hours of writing in the morning and early afternoon. Then the middle of the afternoon, the day, I don't get much done because I'm dealing with the kids. And then usually around 8 o'clock, from like 8 till midnight sometimes is when I'll get a whole nother swing of it in. My daily word count, my goal is to hit 3,000 words a day. I don't always do that, but that's my goal. Some days I'll hit 1,000, some days I'll hit 5 or 7,000, but it's kind of the goal. But we're on this really tight production schedule where we have a book coming out every 90 days. And these aren't small books. We're talking 110, 120,000 word count books every 90 days. And so like right now I have 4 books that are done. They're done. They're just in editing. And I'm working on the 5th one, but it takes months for those books to get through the editing process before they actually get published. And so there's always a hopper. There's a consistent hopper of books always waiting to be published. And it's a beast, but it's worked for us. It's what's allowed us to crank out so many books in a short number of time and build a quick audience. But it's a lot of work, and I think that's one thing a lot of people don't realize with self-publishing. And realize that this is a business, and like any startup, any business, it requires an inordinate amount of work, a lot of research, and a lot of just grit. But if you could put it in for 4, 5, 6 years like that, you can really create something epic, something awesome. And
there's the business side, but there's also the like we said, finding the time to do it. So many people are checking email and Twitter and social media and not getting their word count done. Whatever it is, I don't care if it's 500 words, they're not getting it done, but they're getting all this other stuff done. And I'm just the opposite. I'm like, right now, I'm working on a story, and Agatha Christie said, your best ideas come when you're washing the dishes, right? So I have a treadmill. I work out, I get on the treadmill, I do some stuff. So every day when it's time, like I got a timer. My daughter makes fun of me. You got a timer for everything. I'm like, yeah, I want to make sure I get all my stuff done. Timers help me do little alarms in the phone. So at a certain time it goes off. It's time. Okay, I got to go get on the treadmill. That's when all my great ideas will come to me because I'm not, I got a TV on or I got an audiobook on or something or a master class playing, and I'm totally zoned out. And I'm thinking about, that killer was with the knife and the thing about the knife, and that's all of a sudden it's like, because your mind is clear of staring at it. They're like, what if it was this? So it's like, yeah, there we go. So I got my phone with me. So as I'm on the treadmill, I'll do a talk to text, and I'll tell myself my idea. Here, this resolves this, and think about that, and think about that. And I'll just email it to myself, right? So right now I'm working on the 4th book in the Gamma Sequence series, which I wrote 3 of the novels last year. They're like, the shortest one's like 65,000, the other 2 about 85,000. And so those were written last year. And the 4 horror story anthologies were all written last year. I think almost all of them. One, maybe I wrote one this year. And so I'm really putting together the outline. I got the outline together of the story for the 4th one in the Gamma Sequence, but it's like scene ideas. I'm like, it'd be fun if this, fun if that. What have I not seen in a movie? I'd love to see this. What have I not seen in the book? I'd love to do that. What are things like that makes sense for this series. And I'm really like in one of the, you start to like some of the characters. And there was one doctor, I won't say who, you kind of like her. Well, if I said her, now you probably know who it is. But she ended up getting killed. And it was interesting because I think most readers like, she's gonna confront this situation where there's she's got a conflict with the vice president of the United States. She gets invited into this private conference, and during the vice president happens to be a bad guy. During the conference, just the two of them, the vice president basically says, we did this, and makes a phone call and finds out that when she said this, it meant that, and some big bad thing happened to the doctor, and the doctor leaps across the desk and kills her. And everybody's thinking, well, how are you going to get out of that? I'm like, you don't get out of that. It's the freaking vice president. You kill the vice president, you die. If you do it in the vice president's residence, 100% you die. So I get a lot of readers, they're like, we thought for sure that A, she was going to get out of it, and B, we liked her. You killed her off. I'm like, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe in my book.
Sure. Yeah, you kill off the favorite character like Game of Thrones. I've done that many times in my books.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, I wanted to ask you real quick, what are a couple of your favorite indie authors? Not trad pubs, just who are some of your favorite indie authors that you like to read and you've enjoyed their stuff?
Favorite indies. I read a lot of Jennifer Ruff stuff because we like critique for each other.
Okay.
So I've read all her stuff. There's a few other people who I read a lot of their stuff because I used to help them with their stories, like critiquing, stuff like that. But whose stories, maybe they're not out yet or they're doing different things to where those books aren't out there for you to enjoy yet. So it's like I'm in the early part of the process. You'll see that book in 6 months. No point in talking about it. So I would say Jennifer. I like her stuff a lot. She has one that I really liked. It's called The Numbers Killer. I like all her stories.
Okay.
She's got this one called The Numbers Killer, and I loved the character. This character's name is Beth, and Beth's got this abusive boyfriend, and Beth becomes jealous of this FBI agent. One of the lines I loved, Beth has this weird quirk where she like counts things. Everything's have to be an even. Like if these books back here, there have to be an even number of books, like probably an even number per shelf. It was just a weird quirk, and I was like, I like that. I don't know why. And she was a sympathetic character. Her boyfriend was bad to her and things. That wasn't why she was sympathetic. She was interesting. But when she saw the FBI agent, there's a female FBI agent, and Beth makes some kind of comment about she thinks she's so smart, her and her good looks and her perfect little nose. And I was like, the perfect little nose. That's such a line. That's like a human line that one girl would say about another girl. Like her and her perfect nose. It's like I have to hate her because she's so perfect and all that. And so I just thought that was a really neat line, a really neat character. And I loved that story. But the one she's writing now, which I don't know what it's going to be called at the end. It's probably called When They Find Us. That same FBI agent, it's a series. There's a plane crash and they're surviving. And so there's some neat, what I like about her stories is all the secondary characters. You're always going to like your FBI and their main characters. I like some of her secondary characters. And I really like Beth from The Numbers Killer. And I really like this guy, Sergey, in this one she's writing right now. It's not completely written yet. He's just a jerk. He's just a jerk. And he has some of the best lines. And he's just like, everybody wants him to die. I don't know if he does die. He might die. And then there's this sweet kid. And I'm like, you have to kill the sweet kid. She's like, why would I kill the sweet kid? I'm like, just do it. It'll be awesome. She's not going to do it. But, that's not her style. She might kill Sergey, but she's not going to kill the sweet kid. I'm like, kill the sweet kid. It's like, I don't understand why you want to kill the sweet kid. I'm like, no one will see that coming. Yeah. That's why you have to kill him. But that's not going to happen. What about you? Aside from me, who's like your favorite indie author?
My favorite indie author, I've said this many, many times before, is A.G. Riddle. I've had the pleasure of talking with him a couple times.
He's everybody's favorite, I think.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure to talk with him a couple times on Zoom. I think he's just an awesome individual person and just a really, really fantastic author. I first discovered him when I read his book called Pandemic, and then the Genome, which came afterwards, and it was just blew my mind away. I was like, wow, how he was able to craft the good guys, the bad guys, the plot twists, the turns, the visual descriptions. Man, if I strive to be able to write and create stories like him with the visual appeal to it, because that's just, to me, it blows my mind away. It's just incredible how he's done that, you know. And he's not a writer by trade. You know, he has a big background in like venture capital and VC
Really?
type
I didn't know
stuff
that.
in finances and investing, and you saw part of that because like when he was talking about in pandemic his main character and how his character became really wealthy and the things that he did, you could kind of glean a lot of Jerry's background into how he crafted the guy, and it was really cool. But he's one of those like 800-pound brain guys, just really incredibly smart in a whole lot of things. So
And it's fun to read a story like that
yeah,
because it's like, wow, how'd they think of that?
well, it's like, you know, like when we wrote our new series, Falling Empire series. So in Rig, we have a particular character. He's a lieutenant colonel in the special forces, and he'd been on loan to the CIA for doing some stuff, and he has a background in interrogations and intelligence. So using a lot of my experience for that. And so it was really neat because we have the most intricately designed interrogation scenes like ever written, in every single book, because there's always a different group that they're chasing around the world to capture and go after to interrogate and find out why this plot happened while the war's going on. And a lot of people said, how did you come up with these interrogation ideas? How did you come up with this? What about these tools? How did you do this? I was like, you didn't read my first book called Interview with a Terrorist, where I actually write and tell you about my job as an interrogator. I used to do that for a living, so I have a really good insight into how this stuff works. But you know, it's fun when you can take your backgrounds and integrate it into, you know, like with your sales stuff. What if one of your killers is like this President's Club level sales?
Oh, I'm sure most of my
Oh,
former
yeah.
salespeople are murderers. You know,
I mean, you could just, the stories you could spin with that because of the knowledge you have from your background, and that would be great. That'd be,
I think you said it in you or one of your guests said in one of your earlier interviews is you pick up a lot of stuff through your life,
yeah,
little things. So one of the things we were talking about kids, right, and waking up at 3 a.m. So there's a rapport I have with my daughter, and at one point in the story, there's a guy who's having some rapport with a little kid, a little girl, and the readers, they like that part reads so true. I'm like, well, yeah, I know how to do that because that's what I do with my daughter. So it just read very true, and readers get it. We know it's make believe. They're buying into a fiction, you know, but the stuff that is very personal to you will come across as very very understood by everyone kind of
yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
and that's a neat thing that we get to share with
yeah.
the world basically.
I love it. Well, we're running out of time right now, but we are certainly going to chat again, and we'll go into the craft of writing and how you do that. And you can tell us about this course you teach with a bunch of kids, teaching
Yeah,
them how to
my
get
young
into
authors
writing.
club. It's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
Authors Club, because I want to talk all about that because I think that's amazing. Because I want to get my daughter into doing things like that too. Because I told her when she wants to buy her own car, she's gonna have to learn how to write some books and sell some books to make the money to buy her own car. And if she does a hit,
There you go.
she makes like 20, 30 grand, and she wants to blow it all on a car. I don't care because you know what? That's a life lesson for her. You know, she earned it, let her spend it. And then she go, wow, this is great. Maybe if I write some more books, I could buy my own house or a condo on the beach. And be like, that's right. That's it. That's how capitalism works. This is how it works. You come up with an idea, you sell it, and you make money on it. So yeah, we will definitely talk again. But I want to thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the time on a Sunday morning to chat.
It's
And,
my pleasure. I was glad to do it.
all right, man. Well, we will talk later. Thanks.
All righty.